Oh, there's Cal. Out of the way, Cal. We have to shoot this video. Come on, old Bessie. There we go. Hey everyone, my name is Ian and I've been riding adventure motorcycles for the past 20 years. In that time, I've owned 30 different adventure bikes and I've learned a lot of things the hard way. With so many people getting into the sport of adventure riding, I see a lot of people making the same newbie mistakes over and over and over. Now, I fully acknowledge that it's okay to make mistakes and learn and correct yourself, and that is an important part of this whole process. But that being said, I think there's a few things that newer riders should know up front just to get you through those early learning phases and help you look a little bit less like a noob. Now don't worry, most of this video we're going to spend out riding on the bike and showing you an actual practice. But there's a couple things before we leave the driveway that I just wanted to cover really quick. The first mistake is not prepping yourself, your gear, and your bike properly before you go out on a big ride. So I have other videos on my channel talking about how to prep your bike, all the things you should go check through, and how to set up your controls, how to do maintenance, all those types of things. But the basics are this. Make sure your riding gear is clean and ready to go. Make sure your helmet is clean. Make sure your visor is clean. Make sure that on your motorcycle that the controls are set up for you, that you can use your brake lever and your shift lever and all of the controls on your handlebar, and that the handlebar angle is correct, and all those sorts of things before you go out on a ride. Also, make sure that you've done the basic maintenance to your bike. Do you have clean oil? Do you have a clean air filter? Have you done valve checks? Have you, checked your tire pressure? Have you made sure you have adequate tire tread? Are your brake linings thick enough? Things like that. Also, with chain drive bikes, what I see a lot is people, they either have not enough chain slack or too much chain slack, so make sure you inspect that. Worn out sprockets, worn out chains, those things have ended people's rides. So again, motorcycle prep, gear prep, and personal prep, of course being rested and well fed, are all very, very important things. The second mistake I see people making is they're overloading their motorcycle and bringing far too much gear. Whether you're going on a camping trip or a multi-day trip or just out for a day ride, you really need to go through everything on your bike and make sure that you're only taking what you need. Pare down the weight. Pare down the bulk. You don't need to take a bunch of crap with you all the time. Now, there are essential items, essential spares, and essential tools that you do need to carry, and I have a video coming soon on what do I keep in this bag. This is a tail bag that I put on whatever bike I'm riding, whether it's a press bike or one of my own motorcycles. I strap it on. It has everything I need from emergency supplies, spares, tools, tire repair, things like that. So stay tuned for that. But again, you don't need panniers just to go out for a day ride, so stop taking so much extra weight with you. Okay, so let's get geared up, get our helmet on, get our riding gear on. We're gonna go out for a ride, and I'm gonna take you through the next 6 things that I think are very, very, very important for you to avoid as a newbie, just mistakes that you wanna avoid when you're out riding. So let's go cover those now. Let's jump on, go for a ride. Hi everyone, my name is Ian and you're watching Big Rock Moto, one of YouTube's fastest growing independent motorcycle channels. If you'd like to see more content like this in the future, there's a few easy things you can do right now. You can hit the thumbs up on the video, you can subscribe and make sure to hit the bell for notifications, you can always leave a comment on my videos, and you can consider becoming a Patreon supporter to gain access to exclusive content from behind the scenes, tips and tricks, and so much more. If you're here looking for my outdoor content, my Jeep content, my travel trailer stuff, that's on my new channel, Big Rock Outdoors, which I'll link here in the card and also down below in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and now back to your video. So I chose to ride the GS today because one, it's the largest and heaviest bike I have in the garage at the moment. It also is still wearing the factory street tires, and I wanted to give myself sort of that handicap for some of the stuff that I want to show you guys. You know, the funny thing is about jumping on this bike is that no matter what bike I'm getting off of, whatever bike I'm testing or other bike that I own, and I get on this, I'm just reminded how much I love this thing. I mean, everything about it just seems like perfect. It's just so smooth, so comfortable, so fast. The handling is amazing. I love this dashboard. Anyway, that's not why we're here. So let's get to the dirt and let's start riding. Okay, we finally made it to the dirt. So the third mistake that I see a lot of people making is standing up all the time. Now, I know a lot of people have had it drilled into them. When you're off-road, you have to be standing up. Well, what does off-road actually mean? Does off-road mean a dirt road, a gravel road? Well, no, of course not. You don't need to be standing the whole time. So let me show you kind of when you should be standing and when you shouldn't be standing. So on a road like this, what's the purpose of standing up? It's a flat dirt road. There might be a couple tiny ruts. There's just not much going on. So there's really no point of standing up, because standing up takes a lot of extra energy that you don't need to spend. Now, I get if you just love standing up, if that's your thing, okay, that's fine, whatever, and you can stretch out, but you don't need to stand all day. If you're gonna go on an all-day adventure ride, you're gonna save a lot more energy by sitting down in areas where the terrain is not technical. Now, as we get over here a little more, I'm going to take you to a few little spots where it is a good idea to stand up. So the reason that you stand up on an off-road bike or on an adventure bike is to increase your control of the bike, and also to allow your body to become part of the suspension of the motorcycle, right? So it allows you to absorb things better and just gives you more complete control. So here we're going to cross this little kind of dip, this little wash, and we're on a 600-pound GS with street tires. So you know what, this might be a time when I want to stand up. So all I do here is stand up and go ahead and get through that section, and then when I'm done, I'm back on a dirt road. I can sit down again, start cruising along. You have to remember that an adventure bike is not a motocross bike. You know, you're not racing a dirt bike around a track. So for most of the time, you don't really need to be standing. It just allows you that extra measure of control in tricky technical situations. So I could definitely sit down and go through this little technical area, but I just have a little bit more confidence if I go ahead and stand up on the bike. My control is increased, I can see further ahead, I can move around more. See, that felt good. Now I can sit back down. All right, so let's get into mistake number 4. So mistake number 4 has to do with your vision. What I see a lot of people doing, and this not only applies to adventure motorcycle riding, but also to mountain biking, any other outdoor sport that you might do, is you're gonna go where you look. Your vision is everything. I can't emphasize that enough. If you want to crash less, you need to practice looking ahead on the trail, out in the distance more, up ahead, instead of right in front of your wheel or right down through your windshield. So let me show you what I mean. Let's get going here. So just something as simple as making this sharp right-hand turn on this dirt road. If I just stare right in the front tire of my motorcycle, I don't see what's up ahead. I'm like, oh crap, I missed the turn and now I hit the sand. But if I look ahead at where I want to go, keep my head up, anticipate the terrain. Boy, this bike rides really well, actually. Last time I was up here, I rode the V-Strom 650 and that thing was such a mess. Anyway, so yeah, I don't want to look at my front wheel and get target fixation and start going off the trail. What I want to do is keep my head up look through the next corner. I'm looking, okay, now I come out here. I can see I've got a left-hand corner up there. I'm keeping my vision out here, not down here at the dashboard. If I look down here, I can't see this rut, I can't see this rock. I'm not setting up my line. But if I look out in the distance, have a little fun. So you see, I'm always looking up about as far as I can see and planning my next move, positioning myself and the bike in the right area, right? So I'm not looking at this dip as I go through it. I've already looked at that dip and figured out where I'm going to be going through it. Same for this one. Skid plate crash there. So see, I'm not looking down into the dip. I'm looking up ahead at this next corner and getting the motorcycle set up, right? It's very important to look up ahead and practice this. Constantly go out and practice this technique. If you find yourself looking down at the front tire, looking right in front of your bike, that's wrong. You need to drill it into yourself to keep your head up and be looking far ahead at where you want to go over the next rise right here. See, I was able to miss those rocks. Now this is not a video about U-turns, but I'm gonna have that. Now let's say I want to make a U-turn in this tight space. Well, the same vision rule still applies. I don't want to look in front of my tire. I want to look at where I'm trying to go, right? And I can work on my balance here. I want to look out ahead here, keep my head out, look through the corner. Don't, if I look down in front of my bike, right in front of my front wheel, same thing here. I'm looking up at this gate because that's where I want to go. The motorcycle has a way, and your body has a way of figuring things out as long as you look in that direction. It's crazy how it works, but I promise you it does work. Okay, mistake number 5, let's get into this. So if you're a keen-eyed viewer, you may have been noticing in the previous section that I have the ABS and the traction control activated on my bike. I don't turn them off. So let's get into this. So the mistake number 5 is not using the rider aids, the electronic safety systems of your motorcycle. So adventure motorcycles, since the last 5 or 6 years or so, maybe a little bit longer than that, the newer generations of the traction control and the ABS are designed to help you off-road, and you don't need to turn them off, and they're designed to actually be used in the dirt and even in technical situations. So you have things like adjustable traction control, adjustable ABS with different modes. I'm going to show you how to use these to your advantage instead of just turning them off. So the mistake that the people are making is you're saying, okay, I'm in the dirt, I need all that turned off. Well, that's absolutely wrong. On a big, heavy adventure bike, 500, 600 pounds in the case of this GSA, these things are tremendous help. So let me show you what I mean. So you have different riding modes, you have different ways of configuring it. You need to know how your motorcycle works and the different settings you have available to you. So on this GSA, I have Enduro mode and Enduro Pro mode, and I have Enduro set up with more intervention on a traction control, like better for street tires, which I have on now. I have Enduro Pro set up for more slip. The ABS in both those modes is set where in Enduro mode, I have ABS onto both wheels, actually. In Enduro Pro mode, I have it set where it's off-road ABS on this bike, meaning they turn the ABS off to the rear wheel so I can skid the rear wheel into corners and lock up that rear wheel. But I'm going to show you how effective ABS is when you leave it on and how effective traction control is. So why don't we actually go ahead and start off with the ABS. So I've got the bike in off-road mode, but I have the ABS on. So let me show you how quickly I can stop on a dirt surface with ABS engaged versus turning the ABS off entirely. So let's do that now. So one of the first ways I like to utilize ABS on a big heavy adventure bike, and I know this is not how you would ride a dirt bike, but when I have ABS activated on both wheels, keep in mind I have it in off-road mode, so it has a little less intervention. What I can do is, if I'm going a little hot through some of these corners in the dirt, instead of using my front brake, which sometimes can have a tendency to unsettle the front of the bike, I'll go ahead and drag my rear brake going through these corners. So let me show you what I mean. So like here, I can go full into my rear brake and see how I'm slowing down. Oh, I actually stalled the bike. I didn't use the front brake. You can use the front brake. Let me kind of show you that again. So coming in a little hot here, okay, hard on the rear brake. I can just mash that rear brake lever down. The bike is under control, it's slowing down, and I'm not, using my front brake, which sometimes can do funny things to my front wheel, although you should be using your front brake off-road, and I'll show you how to do that. Now let me show you how effective the ABS is with both wheels on. So I'm going to go, let's say 35 miles an hour. I'm going to do a panic stop. Now look how quickly I can stop, right? Let me do that again for you. So what I did was I mashed both brake levers and I came to a controlled stop without low siding or high siding the motorcycle. So when talking about using the ABS and traction control, another big factor here and the reason why it can be so helpful to leave these systems on is if you're using street tires or tires that are not really that aggressive and don't grip that well in the dirt or in slippery soil. So with these street tires that I have on the GS right now, I just don't have a lot of grip, and the ABS and traction control systems are allowing me to maximize the grip that I have and use all of it. So even going down this relatively steep hill here, I can get a whole lot of braking out of this bike, even with these street tires, and I'm not slipping around, right? So that's a huge advantage. Now, what about the situations where you're going to want to turn your ABS off? Well, there's never a situation where you want to turn it off the front wheel, and some bikes, like my Africa Twin, it doesn't even let you turn it off on the front wheel, but you can turn it off the back. So the reason you might want to turn it off the back is if you're in really, really slippery, steep situations where you want full control of that rear brake, or you're a more advanced rider who wants to be able to slide the bike into corners and back the rear wheel in by sliding that back wheel, locking up the brake. But you have to know what you're doing if you're going to do that. But for a lot of beginner or even intermediate riders riding these large bikes, I really recommend, see there's my rear brake all the way, I really recommend using the ABS systems to your advantage. If you have an older adventure bike like the old R1200 GSs before 2013, the old KTM 950s and 990s, the old F800 GS, so anything before like 2015 or so, those ABS systems, you really couldn't use them off-road. They were so intrusive, but the modern ones you really can. All right, we're done with ABS. Let's talk about traction control. So first of all, look at the tires on this motorcycle, right? These are a street-oriented tire. Now you can get away with tires like this on hard-packed dirt roads and even some softer conditions, surprisingly, especially if you know how your traction control system works and how to use it. Now, if you have a motorcycle, maybe you ride a Tenere 700, or maybe you ride just a bike, a dual sport bike without traction control, then unfortunately, there's not much you can learn from this section. But if you do have a bike with traction control, a 790, an 890, one of the GSs, even a V-Strom, any bike that has an adjustable traction control system, I'm going to show you why that's a good thing and how you can really use it to your advantage. Basically, the traction control is going to allow you to deal with slippery conditions with slippery tires and have more control of the bike and look like more of a professional when you're riding. So let's jump on here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so the GS is in enduro mode. Now in enduro mode, I have a pretty moderate level of traction control intervention set up. So the GS has different settings, other bikes work differently, but let's just say this is the medium setting, right? So I'm going to use that and show you how that works. Let me show you. So first gear, second gear, you see I'm able to use full throttle on a 136 horsepower motorcycle. It gives me a tiny bit of sideways slip, but it allows me to control the bike, and the bike doesn't go completely out of control. Coming out of this corner, I can get a little bit of slip, you see, just enough to kind of pivot me around, but it catches me. It's not enough slip where I'm going crazy sideways and starting to lose control, right? So it makes the most of the grip that these street tires can provide, and it actually allows you to ride pretty effectively, pretty efficiently, and pretty quickly. Let's try it again. So second gear, see how I open the throttle all the way and the motorcycle is staying in line. It allows you to ride these big pig adventure bikes, even with luggage and not so good tires, pretty aggressively. Now for climbing steep hills, for going through rocks and sand and mud, the traction control is also insanely useful because it allows you to make the most of the grip that your tires can and allows to keep the bike in line and under control. Now in extremely slippery, aggressive situations where it's extremely bad mud or deep sand, the traction control may intervene so much that you're not able to get unstuck or get going. In that case, you're going to go ahead and want to turn that traction control off. So now let me change the mode to Enduro Pro, and I have less traction control dialed in and show you kind of how that works. So you see in Enduro Pro, it allows the bike to step out quite a bit more. See how the engine's revving up more? But I'm able to use a lot of throttle and the bike stays relatively in line, keeping in mind that I'm on street tires. See, it allows me to slide the rear around and look like a pro rider, which I really am not. It allows me to step that rear out, and which helps me actually corner the motorcycle, which is another technique we'll have to talk about someday. I really like the Enduro Pro setting on these Beamers. It works pretty well. On a KTM 790 or 890, this would be equivalent to probably setting like number 5 or something like that, if you use your rally mode and your adjustable traction control. Also, climbing steep rocky hills or low traction situations, leave that traction control on and just turn down the intervention, because what you'll be able to do is, again, it'll find the grip and help you manage that situation without the bike stepping out sideways and possibly losing control. So your automatic instinct to turn off those systems off-road is very much wrong, and you need to learn how to use them. That's why the motorcycle manufacturers are putting them on these bikes. Okay, so mistake number 6 has to do with going too slow in certain situations. So you should never ride faster than your abilities to impress your buddies or to try to win a race or whatever, because that's ego and that's going to get you killed. But there are some situations on a motorcycle off-road where going too slow is a bad thing, because you're going to get hung up, you're going to lose your balance, and you're going to get stuck. So what do I mean? Well, a moving motorcycle, and most of you know this from experience, same thing is true with a bicycle. If you ride a little bit faster, the gyroscopic effect of the wheels and a motorcycle going forward tends to want to keep the bike in a straight line and rolling over the obstacles, right? If you slow down too much because you're afraid, or because, again, you're not looking ahead far enough, or you're not familiar with the bike, or whatever it might be, you're more likely to drop the bike, get hung up, and get into those situations that you see so many riders in. But if you carry just a little bit more momentum through certain situations, you're going to have a lot better time. So let me show you an example of, we're going to go through this little river crossing again, although I know it's a dry creek because I live in a dry hellhole where it's 100 degrees all the time, even though it's the mountains. That's a topic for another video. But anyway, we'll go through here and I'll show you first going super slow, crawling in first gear, what happens, and hopefully not drop my bike. And then the second situation of, using a little bit more momentum, going through a little bit faster. So let's do it the wrong way first, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's pretend I'm a newer rider. I'm really nervous, so I'm in first gear. I see that we've got like this kind of riverbed with sand, and then we've got these rocks and these deep ruts up here, and I'm kind of nervous about it. So I'm gonna go super slow and see what happens. So first of all, I'm not carrying enough momentum through the sand. Now I'm gonna get up here into this and be like, oh shit, now I'm stuck. I've stalled the bike and I'm on this super steep incline. I don't have good footing. Now what am I supposed to do? Now if I try to get going, I'm probably not going to have enough traction to get through it. I'm going to drop the bike over because I'm going to lose my footing, lose my balance. So I'm probably going to end up getting off the bike and walking it around, trying to deal with this, huge beast. So that's the problem. Not having momentum just doesn't allow you to have good control and doesn't allow you to get to these situations. So let's see, another mistake that I need to cover in another video, maybe an expanded video, is, you know, when should you stay on your bike and when should you get off your bike? I tend to prefer to stay on the motorcycle. So in this case, let's go ahead and get ourselves out of this big rut that we're stuck in and go do it the right way. Whoa, okay, so now we'll do this in the way that I would ride this obstacle. Probably go through in, you know, second gear and just roll through it instead of getting hung up. You see how we rolled right through that situation? The momentum just will carry you through. So what happens is, you know, and this is normal, fear takes over sometimes when we ride these motorcycles and we end up slowing down too much. All right, so mistake number 7 has to do with your tire pressure. So although there are situations off-road, especially on dirt bikes and lighter weight dual sport bikes, where airing down can be very beneficial because you get better traction and better ride quality, the mistake that I see a lot of riders making is if they have a heavy adventure bike, something like you know, a big KTM or a big GS, Super Tenere, whatever it is, they're airing their tires down too much. And the reason that that's a problem is that you see how these front tires, especially on a bike like this, they have a pretty narrow profile. So they don't have a lot of absorption here. They don't have a big sidewall. So what's going to happen when you air this down to 20 PSI for better grip and better ride, and you smack into a big rock or a boulder at 30 or 40 miles an hour with a 650-pound adventure bike? Well, it's not going to be good. You're going to start doing damage to your rims and your spokes. If you have cast wheels, you're going to bend your wheel. So by keeping your tires aired up a little bit more than you might want them to be aired up at, you're protecting your wheels and rims from damage that you can avoid. 28 or 30 PSI, that's probably my limit. I'm not going to go down to 25 even on a bike this heavy. If you have like a 790 or an 890, you might get away with 25 in the low 20s. There's different factors that come into play. Some people use different tubes. Some people have tubeless and they don't have tubeless. But we're not going to go into all of those details right now. Just keep in mind that there's a lot of weight with these bikes. This is not a dirt bike, and you need to be cognizant of you know, having your tire deflect on rocks and roots and obstacles too much at too low PSI and damaging your rim, but also you're going to cause yourself to get a flat tire too, because either you're going to pinch your tube in there, or if you have a tubeless one, you're going to burp your air out, or you're going to damage your rim and it's not going to be able to hold air. I see a lot of this on front tires going flat on rides that I go on with my friends, but also it happens with back tires too. So again, airing down is a controversial thing. I don't air down very often anymore, to be honest. Like this bike, I just keep up at the street pressures, which I think is 36, 42, and I don't notice too much difference. Yeah, the ride's a little bit rougher. I could probably benefit a little by airing down, but it's not even worth the trouble to me because the kinds of roads that I ride on out here with this bike, it's not a huge benefit. And with traction control ABS, like I showed you, you don't really need it. So I just don't even recommend airing down a lot of the time unless you're in really serious sand and mud and rocks and you're going to be off-road all day and you have a bike and tires that support that kind of riding. But okay, mistake number 8, and then I'm going to have a bonus number 9, which of course you got to have a bonus, right? So number 8 is putting bar risers on your motorcycle. So I get it, you know, standing up feels easier with bar risers, but here's the problem with bar risers. On most motorcycles, most adventure motorcycles, as they come from the factory, the bars are in a pretty good position for standing up already. What happens is if you put bar risers on, you end up sitting too far back on the motorcycle and too high up. When you're riding off-road aggressively and you're standing up through those technical situations that we talked about where you want to be standing up, you want to be more in an attack position. So I'll jump on the bike here and kind of show you what I mean, but you don't want to be standing straight up with your knees locked straight up and sort of in a bolt upright position. You want to be leaned over and have your body in an aggressive attack position. So let me show you kind of what I'm talking about. Okay, this is really hard to film without a camera person. But anyway, what I'm trying to show is that when you're riding off-road, you want to have your knees bent like this, and you want to have your, you want to be leaned over a little bit towards the front. You don't want to be standing straight up like this with your knees locked and standing way up here really tall, because that's not giving you good control, and it's not allowing your body to be suspension and act as part of the suspension of the motorcycle. So bar risers encourage you to stand up too far back, which doesn't put enough weight on the front tire for traction, and it just compromises your control of the bike. You want to be a little bit more forward and a little bit more leaned over like this, and keep your body in a nice, loose, aggressive, attack position here. Now, the exception to this rule is if you're very, very tall. If you're over 6 feet tall, then you're getting into that territory where on a lot of bikes you are going to need bar risers to feel comfortable, and every motorcycle is different. The GS has a very nice standing position already. The bars are pretty high and pretty far back. I rode a V-Strom 650 where I have a test video on that, and that bike, the bars did seem pretty low and pretty far forward for an off-road bike. So you're going to have to evaluate every different motorcycle out there depending on what you're riding and how tall you are. But if you're 5'10", 5'11", and you're riding the average adventure bike, and if you have bar risers on, try taking them off and see how you do without them, and try bending your knees a little bit more, try being a little bit more forward with your weight, because if the whole point of standing up is to increase your control. So you don't want to be standing straight up in that weird position. That's not what standing up is about. So anyway, try ditching the bar risers unless you really, really need them because you're super tall. Sorry, I was just getting a drink there. So that leads me to bonus tip number 9, or bonus mistake number 9, I should say, is that not bringing enough water, not bringing enough hydration, and enough snacks with you. So this activity, adventure motorcycling, can be very, very tiring to ride off-road, picking up motorcycles, getting through difficult terrain. You're in riding gear, you're in full coats, you're in helmets, you're sweating like mad, you're losing electrolytes. So a lot of riders I see, they don't bring enough hydration with them. They're running out of water. I highly recommend some sort of a backpack hydration system, Camelback, whatever you want to use, doesn't matter. At the very minimum of 2 liters for like a half-day ride. A full-day ride, you're probably going to go through 3 or 4 liters or even more. I would say estimate how much water you're going to drink and double that, and that's probably what you're going to end up needing. The other thing is electrolytes. You might want to consider taking electrolyte pills or putting electrolyte supplement into your water. Some of the sports drinks are okay. I really like the Body Armor sports drink that has a lot of electrolytes and not too much sugar, because sugar is not really helping you too much unless you're really, really working hard in some sort of a competitive environment. So hydration is key. Also, having snacks with you, having some energy gel, some Cliff bars, granola bars, because your blood sugar can get low when you're out here working all day on these heavy bikes and doing this stuff. I've only been out here for an hour and a half, and I've already drank like at least a liter of water. It's 92 degrees, it's really hot, really dry. I'm sweating like crazy in my suit trying to get all this filming done. But even if you're not doing what I am, you're going to go through a lot of water. So always have a lot of water and snacks. Backpack hydration system is a must. I wear it on every ride. Even when I ride on the street, I wear a backpack hydration system, because when you get thirsty, you want to drink. And you don't want to wait till you're really thirsty, because then you're already getting dehydrated. So that's bonus mistake number 9, not bringing enough water. Well, I really hope these tips were useful. I think that these are mistakes that a lot of people are making, but I could be wrong. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Let's have a discussion about it. Let me know what mistakes you see people making, what mistakes you think you're making. Also, what kind of videos do you want me to make? I have a lot of riding tutorials and tips planned, how to slide your bike, how to do U-turns, more detailed videos on how to use your ABS and traction control. So we're just scratching the surface today, pun intended. So yeah, a lot more stuff planned, but let me know what you want to see, because I read your comments, I read your feedback, and I'll make the videos that you guys want. So let me know down below. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. I really appreciate all my loyal viewers out there. I really, really do. Please remember to subscribe, hit the bell. Please give the video a thumbs up. Leave a comment, and consider supporting me on Patreon if you want to encourage future content creation like this. Thanks a lot for coming along for the ride, and we'll see you in the next video. Ride safe.